America next? That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, today, finally, Joe Biden emerged, 90 minutes late, to speak about, well, the evil attacks by Hamas against the Israeli people. Now, although he was unequivocal about America's support for Israel and the depravity of these incursions, there was no mention of Iran's role in the planning and the funding of these attacks, nor did he announce any reconsideration of the $6 billion payment to Iran for that prisoner swap. Mostly, it was generalities.
This is a moment for the United States to come together, to grieve with those who are mourning. Let's be real clear. There is no place for hate in America.
Okay, well, if he's really against hate, then he should call a prosecutorial ceasefire against his political adversaries, like the former president, and direct his DOJ and DHS to stop making conservative Americans feel like they're the enemy, or like they're the violent extremists out there. Now, we are seeing a lot of hate lately, anti-Semitic hate at pro-Palestinian protests on the streets of Manhattan.
Thank you all for being here, for raising your voices to celebrate the glorious victory of the resistance.
It is right to rebel! It is right to rebel! Israel, go to hell! Israel, go to hell!
Now, this is a good time, I think, to remind everyone that before 9/11, we didn't give a lot of thought about who we were allowing into America, nor did we give a lot of thought to how we tracked people to make sure that even if they got a visa, they left when they were supposed to and that they were here for the right reasons. Remember, all those terrorists arrived on tourist visas, business visas, and one on a student visa. But now, 22 years after September 11th, would-be terrorists don't need to bother with a lengthy visa process or background checks. They can walk right across the Rio Grande. On a Friday night last month, the administration reported that the Border Patrol had stopped 160 individuals on the terror watch list at the southern border. And that number, by the way, is rising. And beyond that, there are the so-called special interest aliens. Now, these are individuals mostly from Middle Eastern countries known to harbor terrorists. Now, during the past 2 years, I fell over when I saw these numbers. The people apprehended that the special interest aliens, the number is staggering. Early last month, Senator Lankford pressed ICE specifically about this class of migrants.
These special interest aliens, we're trying to figure out the details of them, and as far as we can tell, they're being processed and released in the country, awaiting a hearing in the future, and we don't have a day-to-day supervision of those individuals. Is that accurate or not accurate? Mr. Bible.
It's accurate that we're not tracking them on a day-to-day basis, not the totality of them. So
like wetting himself. Change the depends. Not the totality of them? What weasel words? Which is what we've heard from the White House National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, and he heard that today. Now, I guess he thought he was reassuring Americans who are anxious about a possible attack here.
The focus that we have right now on protecting Americans here at home against anyone who would seek to exploit or piggyback on what is unfolded, ensuring that any terrorist threat here in the United States or to the United States or to Americans anywhere in the world, that we are at a heightened state of vigilance to deal with that.
Wait a second. A heightened state of vigilance? Really? Now, do scenes like this scream vigilance and a sense of seriousness about the potential threats we're facing? Of the, 8 million or so who've been waved into the country that we know about, how many of those individuals in that line that you're watching right there, how many have been vetted? And what does that vetting look like when migrants have no real papers? Now, it is terrifying to think how many potential terrorists Border Patrol has already missed. Look, with tens of thousands of people crossing every week, Lord only knows, not their fault, they don't have enough people. Things at the border are so bad that the media, this is reflexive, right? Reflexive move on their part, are accusing the GOP of pouncing and seizing upon the issue. Sweetheart, I've been on this issue for 25 years. And high-profile Democrats in Denver, San Diego, New York, Chicago, they're even demanding action. Now, most of the liberal mayors and governors, we played the sound bites on this angle, most of them are upset about the influx causing a lack of funding and the overcrowding. They're not really worrying about the future terror attacks that could occur, but they should be. But look, Democrats, they're far more engaged in demonizing the MAGA crowd than stopping a catastrophe in their own backyard.
Let there be no question. Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to spread anger, hate, and division.
But the extreme MAGA Republicans are focused on trying to drive their conspiracy theories and their right-wing ideology.
MAGA extremism is disastrous for the country.
Now, last week in Newsweek, we learned that the FBI is allegedly targeting Trump followers in the lead up to the election. Again, the Biden focus is now and always will be prosecuting and harassing their political opponents, not preventing the actual terrorists or the transnational gang threats that are being, foisted upon us. They're brewing all around us, certainly in the southern border coming up. So what better way for a terror network right now to disperse and then disappear into the general population than amidst hordes of Venezuelans and Hondurans and others, some of them criminals, others looking for a better life, we don't really know. It's a perfect cover, and no visa application or fees necessary. As Israel locks down its own border with Gaza, and as we spend billions helping Ukraine lock down theirs, Biden at our border refuses to pull up his Bienvenidos map. Anyone can exploit it. Now, how in the world does this make any sense unless it's purposeful? The stark truth tonight is this. If we do not change course politically and policy-wise, yes, we could be next. And that's The Angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.